Hi everyone, my name is Jeff Richardson. I am not letting a little bike accident interfere with my abilities to help you. And so, really the goal of this video is helping you to stay more engaged during the political process. Because it is an emotional roller coaster ride. And if you were like me, 2016, I tapped out. I said, you know what, I don't want to keep getting sucked into this negative debate, and so I didn't pay a whole lot of attention. Wasn't as actively engaged as I could be. And now I realize that I can control more of that, realizing what's coming at it, and I can help other people do that. So that's the purpose of this video. Hey, there's going to be a lot of inflammatory political ads and stuff coming your way. There's a lot of people's reactions to what you post and what other people are posting. Again, some of it's intentional, some of it's not. I'm going to help us, figure out what does it mean by getting emotionally triggered. Number two, why do some people want to trigger your emotional response? There is a purpose. Number three, what are the 5 major triggers of the brain, and how do they relate to this political conversations that we're having? And then finally, to help you, how do you spot those things and to be able to stop, right, that impact on your brain? So let's talk. What does it mean to be emotionally triggered? Literally, this is hijacking your brain. Right? So the brain is highly sensitive to dangers. Right? The fight and flight response of the brain is one of the fundamental. It keeps us safe. We would not be able to exist without it. And we have evolved to the point where it's always being triggered. Right? We are not, a Facebook post is not a life and death threat to us, but the brain thinks it is. And so that's the problem that we're having right now in regards to that. So let's talk about the process. First, it's a chemical reaction that triggers the physical response in our bodies. Right? So those are neurotransmitters, chemicals. You know about adrenaline, pumps us up, right? Cortisol, norepinephrine. Right? Those are the 3 main culprits that gets the body ready to run away or to fight. So what does that do physically in our body? Well, it shifts the blood to the legs and arms and away from the stomach and the brain. And more importantly, it shunts this front part. The frontal cortex is where most of our complex decision making and problem solving and all that. The brain says, you know what, I'm going to take over and get us to safety. We don't want to sit here and discuss and debate this right now. So once those chemicals are reacted, right, or released in our body from the pituitary glands and other glands of the body, literally we have 6 seconds before that starts to take effect in changing how our body is reacting. How long does it take to recover from that? You probably know, right? You get into an argument, all of a sudden, right, we're all fired up, go for a walk, 20 minutes to come back down. But here's the problem. If you're jumping on Facebook and you get triggered early, what are you going to be doing for the next 20 minutes? You're going to be writing those, you're going to be in a very reactive state, right? And you're going to have a very thoughtless contribution. Right? So let's keep your brain in the game and let's prevent us from this reaction from being triggered. Let's talk about the intentional and the unintentional uses of this. Unintentional would be somebody gets triggered and during that 20 minutes they're flaming comments and they're posting stuff that feeds their that negative thinking that they're currently under. All right? Let's just have some compassion and realize that they are not under their full awareness. Let's just push that aside. More importantly, there are a lot of politicians and marketing agencies that are creating ads and developing articles and campaigns, let's use that word campaign, to manipulate the way that you think. How do I know this? I have a master's degree. No, not in marketing, organizational change. And so what's trying to happen here, right? So neuroscience is fairly new, 10 to 15 years. But marketers and politicians have known this long ago. It's called trial and error. They would try something out. We might not know why it works, but if it works, we keep doing it. Well, now we have all this knowledge about neuroscience in addition to all this data, so that is really sharpened and maybe weaponized, maybe a better word to use here, adds to make you think and, more importantly, feel a certain way. And so these reactions start the limbic system. So, sorry for my small diagram here, but the big green part is that frontal cortex I talked about earlier. The limbic system is the blue. Again, it's an older part of the brain. Very important in regards to our survival to this day and age, but also to keeping us safe. So that part of the brain, is a lot around emotions, right? That's why, and memory. So if we think back, we remember the highs and lows in life, and the brain kind of, is hazy on some of the stuff in the middle. So those emotions, right, are memorable. Remember that, right? If somebody is trying to spark your emotions, then it will stick with you. Number two, I remember when I first learned that learning was a part of this. I thought it would be more of this frontal cortex. No, because long ago, those emotions allowed us to remember how to avoid dangers. I learned a lot more about this during my work as an experiential educator. I ran ropes courses and brought a lot of that learned by doing into my corporate programs. And so I got to see firsthand how everybody's brain reacts very similar to certain challenges. And I was very confused that college students born and raised in Iraq react the same way as Japanese business leaders. And it's because our brains are all operating the same way. So that's why this neuroscience is so powerful. Right? So remember, these politicians and the super PACs and other marketing agencies, other people trying to sway your decisions on certain topics or certain politicians, right, want to be memorable, and they want to inhabit your rational thinking. Remember that this front of the brain is shunted off when we are triggered, so that we can't think rationally about what we're taking in. So by keeping our threat level down, we are much more thoughtful and asking questions. Is that true? Has that been verified? I don't believe this, right? Let me find out more. Let me get more opinions on this. Okay, so let's talk about what triggers your brain. What's been great is David Rock. I think 2009 he wrote the book Your Brain at Work, where he coined this SCARF model. He's not a researcher, but he's a great aggregator of that research and putting it in a way that makes it easy for people to understand. So let me talk through these 5 and then how do they relate to the political environment right now. So first, status. The most primary one, I think, I see it more in organizations because of the leadership and our financial well-being being related to that. But here in this, it's what is our standing? What's our perceived standing in the community? So it's how that, how do we relate and connect, and where in our family and our community and our work colleagues, right? What's our standing and our social status within there? Number 2, certainty. This is the timepiece of the brain, right? What's going to happen in the future? the more certainty we have, the more relaxed the brain is. We don't got a lot of certainty right now, so you can imagine, how that's triggered. Autonomy says that we have a choice or say in the matter. People want to know that their voice is heard. And if their voice is heard, they are more willing to go along with decisions that are made based on it. Even if it doesn't, maybe what they would have voted for or their primary interest. Relatedness, right? This is this connection piece that we have, right? This us and them, this bonding that we have. We want, as a human being, to stay connected. And so when we do something that rattles that, then we feel like the outcast. Again, that's very negative. So you can see where I'm going with this one. And then finally, fairness, right? Are the systems and the processes feeling fair to everyone? Right? Or do some people have more access than others? Let me use an example of people being laid off. Now your status of being unemployed, boom, down. Certainty for the future, boom, down. You have a say in things? No, I'm not even getting a response on my emails. And do I feel related? No, I don't have the colleagues and stuff. Right? Do I think it's fair? No. I got laid off because I'm too old. I'm the wrong color. I don't have the right skills or whatever might be. So there's an example where a quick change in status, right, triggers all these things. Well, let's talk about the political environment, right? Status, the winners or losers. Again, this isn't as strong in politics, but what I like to think is around how it happens when you speak up in your community and maybe say something that's opposite, right? Opposing view, right? Now all of a sudden people might turn against you, especially the loudest voice, right? People with the most status, the most power, right? By whatever means they have of that. So here, right, the default is maybe not speaking up. So we have to have courage to do that and realizing, hey, that these people care more about what I'm saying and doing than just this one statement I'm saying. Certainty, what's happening in the future? There's a lot of doom and gloom, right? If you choose this candidate, these are all the terrible things that are going to happen. But here's the prosperity and the happiness that is associated with this vote. Guess what? That's a bunch of BS. Reality is, my life and your life is not going to change a whole lot based on what happens in November. And I still got to mow the lawn. I still got to go to the work. Yeah, some people it's going to impact more than others, but relax. It's not doom and gloom. Don't get triggered by that easy trick that they'll play. Relatedness. I'll do another video on identity, politics, and stereotypes, because this is really powerful. Right? But realize, right, who do we feel connected with? What groups do we want to, and how do I have more influence in those? How do I get those groups to have a more thoughtful discussion and not to just replay what you saw and regurgitate the headlines from the newspaper and from political ads. Remember, the friend versus foe is a very powerful part of the brain. And so if we can find a way to relate to people and put a positive spin on this, right, then all of a sudden we stay in this connection. Fairness. So what can we do to make sure that people can vote? That every vote is counted, right? That's where I think some of the electoral college stuff really gets in it. That might be autonomy here as well. But that my vote, right, swing states, their votes count more. Yeah, maybe at the national level, but definitely not at lower levels. So stay engaged, even at that regional, the Congress, your local, your voice has more, right? And that's where also things seem fairer, that you can have a more thoughtful conversation about the good, the bad, the pluses and the minuses for different candidates. or topics, right? Issues on the ballots. So finally, a couple minutes left here. Let's notice, right? How do we help you to survive? Number one, notice what triggers you. Jot those down. Who are the people? What are the topics? What is the language, right, that you find sparks your anger, your frustration, and those types of things? Because that way you know what's coming up. Okay. Number two, access this scarf. Start to look at some of those things and some of these ads and some of the articles you're reading and say, are they trying to put a positive or a negative spin on this, right? Because you'll start to parse out, where the fact versus the function of the language that they're using. Three, let's help prevent those discussions from getting triggered. So it's one thing if I'm online but I might be having a conversation with a person, boom, and they spark something into me. So number one, take a breath. Number two, use this phrase, interesting, tell me more, and smile. I use this in hundreds of workshops for global leaders. It works without fail. It gives me some time to relax, to think, right, and prepare to engage. But it allows for that other person to unfold a little bit more. Hey, tell me more about this part or that part. You might direct it a little bit. But then, get yourself under control and say, great, hey, let's put this part aside. Let's stay focused here. Don't get distracted. Right? Again, another tactic. Those are the main things. If you can do those, then you're going to be more successful in engaging in this political process. Stay engaged. Don't let other people manipulate the way you think and feel. Because that's going to take you out of your authentic self and saying, no, my vote counts, and I'm going to be thoughtful about how I make each and every one of those thoughts. Right? Be aware and be quick. You only got 6 seconds before you're going to get triggered. Deep breath. Follow some of those steps. And then continue to engage. Again, hopefully this is just the start of a conversation between us. Put some comments and questions below. Let's use that to share some links. You got some data that I don't? I'd love to hear it. Right? Let's take a look at something. Right? Again, I hope to do a whole series of these over the next couple weeks. I've got plenty of time. And I care about you. And I care about America. I care about the collaborative process. And that we, the people, thoughtfully together, can create an environment that works for everybody and is effective. You in? Thanks very much for hanging in with me, and I look forward to hearing your comments and joining you in more in-depth conversation in the not too distant future. Take care, everyone. Be good.